Killed in less than a day, ARK Survival Evolved's Aquatica update has completely broken the game. One of the best video games ever completely ruined by one of the worst companies ever. And Snail Games apologizes for ARK Aquatica DLC as update breaks the survival game. The 10th anniversary ARK Aquatica DLC for the original Survival Evolved has been met with, quote, overwhelmingly negative Steam reviews. Yeah. That's just a small sampling of player sentiment and headlines from the video game reporting sites, but as the Evolved faithful slowly claw their way back to even footing and gain access to their beloved game once more, we need to take a look at the still evolving insanity stemming from Studio Wildcard, who, by the way, wants nothing to do with this mess, over to Snail Games and, of course, Studio Sirens, and we can't forget the community, who were basically f***ed over by Snail. Once again, with no regard for anything other than revenue. If you're new here and want to stay up to date on most things ARK, please consider hitting subscribe and ringing that notifications bell. And it's time to check out what the hell has been happening to ARK. By the way, I'd like to point out that PC Games and their statement that Snail Games had apologized was actually incorrect. Snail, which is ARK's publisher, has made no formal announcements centered on the state of Aquatica, and don't expect them to. And this was actually based on a Discord post made by a Studio Siren dev, the third-party group contracted by Snail to create Aquatica. So there you go. Just in case someone was ready to type it down in the comments, I've got you covered. So, the proverbial shit has hit the fan. Aquatica is tanking. More on that in a moment. And the players are even tossing around the idea that the whole thing was a grandmaster plan and scheme by Snail to nuke Evolved once and for all, just to force players to get their ARK fix elsewhere. In this case, the newer Survival Ascended. Now, I'll touch on all of that and more in just a moment, but we need to start at the top, and this disaster has been brewing ever since September 2023, when all official support for Survival Evolved was shut down. Studio Wildcard had made it crystal clear that they were moving on, kind of out with the old, in with the new. But, thinking back on it, technically, I guess you could say this has been brewing ever since 2015 when ARK originally launched. Or, if you want a closer date, we could even look back to January 2023 when that free Unreal Engine 5 upgrade was teased for Survival Evolved, which, again, hindsight being 2020, is the route the studio should have taken. Stick with Evolved, upgrade it, enhance the features, and fix the bugs, but Survival Ascended was cooked up to sell back to the players who had already paid for Evolved, as we covered here well in the past, and was admitted to by Studio Wildcard in order to fund the studio as it pushed towards ARK 2. Back in March 2025, so a little earlier this year, the ARK fandom was rocked to its core when ARK Aquatica was revealed. It had previously just been announced via one of, if not the biggest, AI Slop trailers yet seen. Now, I covered that story here on the channel where statements were made from the contracted devs working on Aquatica claiming they had no idea where that trailer had come from, and so it begins to get worse from there, as just before Aquatica was shown off at GDC, Studio Wildcard, now fully invested into Survival Ascended, put out a preemptive statement saying, quote, ARK Aquatica is being developed by Snail Games USA Colorado. Please follow them for more updates. So basically, that shit you're about to see, yeah, that ain't us. Fast forward to this month, so July 2025, and literally days before 0 hour and the inevitable launch of ARK Aquatica, we started seeing odd social posts pop up like these from the small dev team that had worked on Aquatica, outlining what that development cycle looked like. You had various posts from known and respected members of the ARK community, essentially establishing a dividing line between the product itself and the small part they played, like this one from 𝔾𝕖𝕟𝕣𝕒𝕒, who went out of his way to establish he was only involved with the ARK Aquatica trailer. But the question was always, how would Evolved, which had not seen official support on servers since September 2023, how would it respond to suddenly having the lights turned back on after all of this time? Well, the answer is terribly. Anyone caught purchasing that new DLC, which is an entirely separate topic and major pile of dino poop, how a publisher who had suckled the ARK gravy train for 10 years and reportedly made billions, how could they claim this was a love letter to the fans of the franchise, the 10-year anniversary gift to the players, while also charging them $15 to buy that gift for themselves, but hey, with a special introductory price of just $8.99. How that was ever greenlit as the strategy moving forward is mind-blowing, but this is Snail Games we're talking about, where cash is king and all else can be sacrificed and destroyed as long as a few more nickels can be added to the piggy bank.
Right.
Anyways, mini rant and tangent over. Back to it. And as I said, the lights did come on. The official server spun up and Aquatica launched, instantly nuking Evovled on PC. Now, optimization issues aside, the new update to Evovled significantly changed the way the game engine loads modded assets, or mods, meaning that mods compiled with the older dev kit were made incompatible with the updated game, and the crashing issues started from there. And the way I just worded that and summarized that does this issue no justice. You see this massive dip here on the Steam player count charts? That's the moment Aquatica went live, and I know it says 26 players, which is not entirely accurate, but the counts did fall well below 8,000 on PC, which, if you've been following the comparisons for any bit of time, 99% of the time Evovled outranks Ascended, the newer UE5 version on PC, often by 10 to 15,000 players on PC alone. So at this point, it was DEFCON 1. Worst possible scenario, Evovled was nuked, and players began melting down in the Studio Wildcard run Ascended Discord. And remember, that group had moved on from Evovled, leading to them clamping down on the insanity, posting this message, quote, "This is the official Discord for ARK Survival Ascended, which is the game that Studio Wildcard is working on. If you would like to discuss ARK Survival Evolved and Snail Games' new product, please join their Discord." Which, like it or not, rubbed some players the wrong way, pissing them off even more. Now, I was there in the Evolved Discord watching this all unfold, and let me tell you, heated and toxic AF would not do this situation justice. Of course, the fuel to this fire was then further stoked when this statement was made, quote, "Take advantage of the introductory Aquatica discount. In the meantime, you can buy it now and play later once fixes have been made," even going so far as to ban the use of the word refund from that official Discord server. Making matters even worse now was the fact that mods had been completely obliterated, and go figure, right? Since official support had long since been shuttered for Evovled. The modders themselves had either given up and walked away, or had already moved over to modding for Ascended. The dev kit, which is about 1 terabyte in size for Evovled, was not available, and as of the recording of this video, it's still not updated and available. So the situation here is completely foobar. Modders have either moved on or only have enough space on their PCs for one dev kit, either Evovled or Ascended. Each is about 1 terabyte in size. And since you already shut down Evovled, these modders had already had it installed for Ascended. And you can kind of see where this is going. And even if you could locate some of these long missing mod authors, they might not want to update their work. I mean, you never know. So yeah, anyone that was looking at Aquatica's launch and saying to themselves, you know, it's all good, surely Snail has it all sorted, they'd never revive Evovled without a plan to fix those mods, were instantly shown how bad this could really get. Studio Sirens has publicly stated that they are willing to try to fix the mods themselves, but looking over the depth of just how much has been broken, if that were a possibility, it looks to be a very long haul to get it back to somewhat working properly. In fact, so much was broken and broken badly that the studio ended up creating a pre-Aquatica beta branch on Steam just so players could revert to their old game configs and hopefully then be able to again enjoy Evovled. However, there are so many reports of still bricked saves, corruptions, dinos not spawning on maps they should, and general messages of this is still effed up, along with a wildly uncertain mod fix future that Aquatica, despite whatever the devs at Studio Sirens had intended for it, has now achieved quite possibly the lowest Steam user review rating for 2025. I don't think it's ready for the all-time charts personally. I mean, for that, you need to be in the single digits, but at this point, it isn't far off. From here, you can only guess the post on Reddit and the social boards, everything ranging from excitement over getting a refund to this post that I don't think needs any words. Just look at that and let it sink in. I'd say at this point, with an overwhelmingly negative Steam rating currently sitting at just 12% positive, it goes without saying that you need to stay as far away from Aquatica as you possibly can, leading some to openly say that Aquatica was the ticking time bomb Snail intended it to be, to bury Evovled once and for all, and to force players to either leave, because at that point Snail wasn't making money off them anyways, as they were running the game on their private servers, or if they killed Evovled dead enough, it would then force players to make the decision to either purchase Survival Ascended to get their dino survival fix, or just walk away. Seeing as how Ascended has recently lost 5 spots on the Steam top sellers charts, I'd say in the short term, if this was a 200 IQ move by Snail to increase Ascended sales, it's not being reflected here. Also on a side note, and buried deep beneath the surface of all of this Aquatica noise, the same day that they launched this mess of a DLC, they, Snail, also quietly announced that they were looking into creating their own stable coin. As they say, it's the natural evolution of their innovation-led strategy. Ooh, crypto, blockchain, and now Snail games all in the same sentence? That's a scary mix. I mean, could you imagine another DLC drop in the future for ARK Evolved where you would play to earn? How about a dino survival shop where players could buy and sell tames, of course, with a small fee for every transaction going directly into Snail's pockets? I mean, at this point, I'm making all of this up. We don't know anything about what they're trying to do, but Snail and crypto announced on the same day they nuked the Evolved player base without a sorry or acknowledgement of their mistakes. It's beyond tone deaf. It just borderlines, dare I say, it is malicious. But again, that is the question when it comes down to Snail. Did they use Aquatica as its devious master plan to once and for all destroy the remnants of the strong Evolved player base? And I guess, anything is possible. This is Snail Games we are talking about, but judging from how hasty and ill-funded this development cycle sounds like it was, at least based on the studio dev statements, the fact that their Discord wasn't even configured correctly for certain feedback and comments, along with the fact that the dev kit is not even being made available yet, it feels like much the same with past Snail Games ventures, this was half-baked and never really thought through. I mean, the Evolved nuke theory is entirely plausible, but based on what we've seen Snail do in the past, with blowing money left, right, and center and then canceling projects or just losing their asses outright, they have a pattern of not doing their research and or jumping in half-cocked with little to no idea of what could potentially happen. From here, the question is, where does it all go? And I think it goes without question that Aquatica is well and truly cooked. It doesn't matter if they get the mods semi-functional. That ship has sailed, and players would be crazy to trust that mess again. This disaster has also shown just how bad the relations are between Studio Wildcard and Snail Games. Snail went out and pulled the ultimate backstab with resurrecting official Evolved, which then flopped hard, which, we won't see Wildcard devs out in public calling out that situation, but I would guess behind closed doors, I'm sure there were a few wry smiles and told you so's. The bigger question, though, is how is this going to unfold moving forward? Developer versus publisher, Evolved versus Ascended, ARK 2? And what about the players that are all caught in the middle? Earlier this year, Snail admitted in one of their financials that through their management, or should I say mismanagement, they had lost nearly 50% of the once vaunted ARK player base in the course of a year, from 2023 to 2024. But who knows how bad this could truly get before actually hitting rock bottom? Which I think is a good question for you, the viewer. Where do you see this ending up? Leave a comment about anything ARK related, and of course I'll do my best to respond. If you happen to like the video, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to stay up to date on all things ARK. And until the next one, this is ℂ𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒, signing off.